Direct, live and direct. Now, make sure we're not going live on YouTube right now because we don't need to go live on YouTube. We are not right now, not right now, because this is one of those special shows. This is one of those special shows right now of Wellness Wednesdays. But you can catch us on YouTube on Honor Your Presence, PLLC YouTube. And am I right on that?
PLLC.
What did
Yes.
I say?
PLLC.
I said PLLC. Stop getting me with this tongue twister. But you're now tuned into Riz Talk in the Morning. Riz Talk in the Morning. And this is our Wellness Wednesday segment right here on Riz Radio. Make sure you download the app, Riz Radio. Shout out to Asia Cobbs, the founder of the movement behind the app that's hosting such creative conversation, just engaging conversation, music, and then also just wellness. These wealthy wellness conversations. I like that. I like that. It's just off the dome right there. But I'm yours truly, poetically, Poeticlee, and we have the beautiful, the lovely, the intelligent, the meditative, the sometimes a little irritating
Ugh. Get it together.
Andrea Cole. Clap it up for her. Yeah. The founder and CEO of Honor Your Presence PLLC, and where they, many different practices through different modalities of when it comes to your health, whether it's comedic Reiki, whether it's yoga, whether it's mental health services. So definitely tap in with her on Instagram, Facebook, and you're now on YouTube. So we look forward to seeing some content there. Maybe some sound bowl healing.
Yeah, I'm super excited about that. There is one video already about sound bowl healing, and I'm looking forward to doing more live experiences. So yes, definitely Honor Your Presence PLLC on YouTube for sure.
Okay. Okay. More live sound bowl. Let me ask you, because I'm looking forward to uh being able to collaborate with you more in that space and be able to provide those, with you and providing those services and getting people to really tap into the frequencies. We talk about all that here, right? And we're going to talk about some things today. Today's theme of the topic today, which is interesting. I'm interested to see how you get into this because you said, Lee, now I let you drive the boat last time. And I said, you know what? I want to see you continue to drive the boat with your topics and see where you take us. He said, evil, Lee, evil and ignorance. And I said, oh my gosh, where are you going to take us? And I think you're going to go in a good direction with that when it comes to understanding other spiritual paths, practices, and understanding how we can honor that. And, no matter what it looks like, no matter what it feels like, no matter what it looks like to you, but mind your business. Mind your business. So we'll get into that. But understanding the frequencies, like how do you tune into your frequencies with yourself to kind of ground yourself daily so that you are minding yourself and that you are mindful of yourself?
Yeah. Yeah. You're asking me specifically how I do this. I feel like first of all, taking a pause. Thank you for the amazing introduction. Thank you for driving the boat to this point. And for everybody else who's out there, really think about what he just asked. Like, how do you listen to yourself? How do you take a pause? How do you drive yourself? How do you ground yourself? So today, one of the things I will say that has been serving me specifically is going outside, and it's been raining here. I remember I'm even earlier today, even it was raining for a little bit, and I've been going. My mind had been going, thinking about the next things to do, thinking about what's going on next, thinking about things I need to do before I retreat, before I go and do and go out of town actually. And I went outside in the rain and sat in my car for a bit. And then when I tell you, like, my thoughts just dissipated. It's
Mm.
like my mind was able to open up just by having the water hit me.
Mm.
You don't necessarily, so I feel like sometimes we can just go and not really think about what's happening, right? But I distinctly remember my mind going and my thoughts going, and I had to do this with this website and do that with this task and this, and then going outside, getting hit by the rain, sitting in my car and like just being present. That's huge. Nature is healing. Supernatural, actually. Nature is supernatural. You can't make it up. You can't create it.
Mhm.
So yeah, I would just say nature. For me, would be my top thing that I'm doing right now, especially as we make our way through spring. The pollen has gone a little bit, but
A
it's still
little bit, a little bit, a little bit.
a little
Now,
bit.
within those nature vibes, what is this? What are the sounds, right? Because we're talking about, like, just before we get into our today's theme, I was kind of piggying off the sound bowl healing that you offer. When do you like what nature sounds really capture you the most? Is it rain? Is it birds chirping? Is it the fresh blades of grass being cut in the morning when you hear that lawnmower?
Yeah, I would say my go-to, if you type in YouTube, like natural waterfalls, natural
Mm,
sounds with waterfalls, um, really, y'all, water is going to promote thought. That's why when you're in the shower and you are having all these thoughts that come up and you feel inclined to share and sing and be your
mm,
creative fluid juices and stuff like that,
yeah,
that's the water. Water is
yeah,
a huge factor to that.
yeah.
So waterfall sounds definitely help me, of course, calm down. But I also, if I want to, if I want like a little African beat, if I want to like get a little bounce going, then I also change it up. So to calm down naturally, the water. But if I want to invigorate some stuff, anything that's fast paced, it will help me out. African
Gotcha.
drums, beats, all that.
Got you. So here we are. Today's theme. I got to know what led you to this. Our evil and ignorance, disrespecting others' spiritual paths.
Mm,
And I want to kind of lay the foundation real quick as you get into it. Because what we have here, right, is really talking about spiritual maturity and how spiritual maturity isn't always about being right, but it's about being rooted in your truth and respect for others. So I'm gonna let you take it away and kind of like give me more insight on what kind of got you to this place of thought and this topic that you wanted to share when it comes to evil and ignorance and disrespecting others' spiritual paths.
yeah, yeah. So let's take a pause on that. Just the topic itself, letting that breathe. So, evil and ignorance, disrespecting others' spiritual paths. Evil and ignorant
Mm,
to disrespect other people's spiritual paths. I have a lovely Facebook friend who also teaches yoga with me. We do free
mhm,
yoga in the community every Saturday in Greensboro, North Carolina, called Safe Yoga, y'all. So check it out. 10:30. You can Eventbrite Safe Yoga. It's free for the community.
mm,
And she was sharing with me. I saw on her Facebook post, and it shared went to Muslim Fest in Greensboro today and was disgusted at the Christians that showed up to yell at them on Jesus's behalf.
mm.
Leaving people alone and letting them celebrate their faith is free. That's what she said. Went to Muslim Fest in Greensboro today and was disgusted at the Christians that showed up to yell at them on Jesus's behalf. Um, when I read that,
Sounds like a riddle.
you get what I'm saying? On Jesus's behalf.
It sounds like a riddle. Because I was trying to think about that in my head. Trying to, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, listen, went to Muslim Fest in Greensboro today
Mhm,
and was disgusted at the Christians that showed up to yell at them on Jesus's behalf.
hmm,
That was the post. So, setting the scene, Muslim Fest, we have people celebrating in the streets. We have music, we have food, we have different things going on. And there are a group of individuals that identify as Christians who were yelling at them, patronizing them, scrutinizing the Muslim community, right? And so when I read that, instantly a fire came inside of me. Instantly a fire came inside of me. Um, I'm going to sidebar real quick. A fire came inside of me specifically because one of my comedic name is called Hayat Mayat Herut. Hayat Mayat Herut. And it means fighting for truth gives me joy.
Mm,
So fighting for truth gives me joy. So I just say that to say, inside of me, there was a fire that was burning because what was happening in the space just didn't make any sense. We have joy over here, we have peace over here, we have love over here, we have culture over here, we have this, and then we have hate over here, and discrimination over here, and scrutiny over here, and all this stuff. And so as soon as I as soon as I saw that, I said, let me go ahead and comment because it only makes sense to comment on this experience. And I said back to this experience, I said, what did I say? I ultimately said that anyone, I said absolutely disgusting and demonic.
mm. Okay.
Anyone who is coming down on anyone else's spiritual beliefs or practices is absolutely disgusting. That's disgusting.
Mm,
Absolutely. And I said, it's poisonous. And I said, it's evil. Period.
mm,
Um, when people are identifying and going through their own journeys, their spiritual practices, it doesn't matter if you are a Christian, if you are a Muslim, if you celebrate Ifa, if you celebrate the Kemetic studies, if you do anything in the space, if you don't celebrate anything and you're just focused on your own personal spiritual elevation,
mhm,
right? When you have your authority to express yourself and get in touch with yourself, that is the power. That is the authority. That
mhm,
is the power. That is a peace. Whenever anybody comes against that, they are creating the division. They're
mm,
creating this separation, and in separation becomes that worry, that fear. Am I doing something right? Am I doing direct opposite of who we are in our authority? When we walk in our strength, when we are practicing our own things to see what resonates, to see what doesn't resonate,
mhm,
right? So it was just a disgusting experience to hear about someone else just coming down on another human being just for one demographic, right?
mm,
Are all one. I want to take a pause right there because there's just so many things: the separatism, the division, the doubt that gets instilled in us as humans, where it's like you're right, I'm wrong. Like there's a right or wrong way to do this thing, right?
mm.
So I'm going to take a pause right there. But poetically, what are your thoughts these this population, these
Yeah.
Christians sharing with these Muslims? Because I've seen it so many different ways. I've seen
Right,
people
right.
Christians and coming at Kemetic people and coming at Muslim. I've seen it all. So I wanted to hear your thoughts about this.
Well, I think it's excuse me, just recovering from being under the weather. There's so many different ways to look at it. I think it's one of the main ways is what you said is that how do we kind of be mindful of others because when you're coming at somebody, for what they do, that's a very heavy energy, right? It's a very like dark energy in its own power in its own way because at the end of the day, how are you minding your own? When they say mind your business, it's really like that. Like, how are you minding yours and being mindful of yours, right? So in those moments, we often and judgment is natural, right? Judgment is natural. So it's not like I can sit here and say some of these aspects that we deal with, some of these aspects that we go through, excuse me, aren't just natural part of us, far as this where we grow up, the norms that we're around. That's why it's good to experience life, and it's good to experience other cultures. It's good to experience other ethnicities. It's good to experience other forms of life and what life can be, because I think there's just so much that other people have to live through and live by that may be outside of you. It may not be by your same moral code. It may not be by your same ethics. It may not be by your same vision. However, um, it brings up a lot of questions, right? Because you can look at those two aspects and you can see, okay, Muslims, Christians, right? For some people, that those boundary lines are cool. Like they're fine with those two entities just doing what they have to do. Now, when you start talking with some people and they feel like they feel like those that may honor or worship evil energies, right? Or if you're out here honoring, like right now, on Riz Radio, we got talking music with Dom and Lee, and one of the conversations I've had with Dom lately, and he's like, "Yo, I really just don't want to hear it." But I think it's fascinating to me is we have an artist right now that's like really heavy into letting it be known, like he's honoring something that was very dark towards Jews, right? Or as Hitler, and he's honoring that. This is like a legendary artist that's now taking this role and taking this step. Now, that is that a religion? Is that a spiritual practice? I think anything that is a routine, anything that is a form of commitment and devotion is a spiritual path and practice. So, is there a window to be open to somebody? Is there a window to be open to somebody that wants to honor what Nazis honored? Is there a window to be open to that? To be open to what the KKK honored?
Mhm.
Right? Are we being open? Because then what's the line? Right?
Mhm.
What's the line and how do we honor and then how do we do we just be are we just now mindful? Are we just now just like hold on, I'm sorry. I got little rascal in here going crazy. Um are we just now at this point? Are we just now like just opening ourselves up to anything? Like, okay, you do you, this group does them, and we just nobody looks at anybody and kind of we just hold our own. Now, in that sense, I do when you start to read ancient texts and you start to read just history, excuse me, in African tribes, that's how a lot of African tribes operate too. Like a lot of like indigenous tribes centuries ago would operate in that sense centuries ago, right? Not decades ago, but centuries ago would operate in that way. Hey, well, this is what we honor over here. This is how we protect ourselves over here. Look, we know that there are some forces up yonder, but we don't go that way. They don't come this way, and this is how we monitor ourselves. The other forces, you people have a certain respect, right? So, I mean, now it kinda crosses the lines because we live in this world too now where it's like freedom of speech, but there's this thin line of freedom of speech, or is it I'm going to just make it my own prerogative to step over here and judge you and criticize you. I've said enough. I don't know,
Yeah.
because I mean, let me just say this real quick.
Yeah.
Spirituality isn't a competition.
Period. Mic drop.
Yeah,
You don't drop the mic like that. You drop it like that.
yeah.
Mic drop. Spirituality isn't competition. One of the things that you even are talking about when you started opening it up to freedom of speech, when you're opening it up to everybody's spiritual and religious practice, everybody has the faculty for discernment and discrimination.
Yeah.
That is a faculty that we all possess. Okay. The biggest thing that I'm referring to right now is diminishing someone's authority to make their own decisions,
Mm.
right? We are all one.
Yeah.
You're another version of me that I'm learning from and understanding through. I am the only person that matters here in this world. My perspective, my lens on the world, just like yours. Your
Mhm.
perspective, your lens is the only lens that matters. How you internalize things, how you take things, right? And so anything that separates, that divides us, whether it be religion, whether it be race, whether
Yeah.
it be all these different dividers, were constructs. They're
Mm.
constructs. So the the elephant in the room, the
Mhm.
thing that really is a driver here is what is evil and what is righteousness, right? What
Mhm.
is righteous? What is evil? So a lot of people like to confuse evil and righteousness with good and bad,
Right, 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 right.
with light and dark. You said dark a couple of times here. Light and dark. Light and dark, you need the dark in order to see the light. You need the light in order to be able to navigate through the dark, the unknown, the different elements. Dark isn't evil, but that's
Hmm.
what's also being taught to us. What I'm talking about here is evil,
Hmm.
period. I'm talking about how evil poison can separate the one,
Hmm.
the one, the all of us, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to come down on you and tell you that you are wrong and your authority and your decision making here. When
Yeah.
I talk to my clients, I'm like, there is no, it's not about when you talk about decisions,
Yeah.
it's not about right or wrong. It's not
Mm.
about right or wrong when it comes to decisions. Decisions are inherently neutral. It's whatever consequences come after it could be positive or negative.
Right. Right.
The whole thing. We have the authority to make whatever decisions that we make here and then deal with whatever consequences. Now, when your decision making starts being infiltrated by beings outside of you,
Okay.
that is when the conversation starts happening. That's when the poison starts spreading. Because if everybody lived in their truth, we'd be we'd be in a world that made sense.
But that's what. See, now that is where things get gray. See, now
Talk,
we've hit the point of conversation where things officially become gray
yeah,
because you 2 points. You said if you're making decisions outside of you, who's to determine that? Who determines that your decision was in you or outside of you?
you do.
No, I'm saying, okay, how do you determine that?
Correct. All right. Boom. Take my instance, my example. First of all, and first and foremost, thank you for opening the conversation because this is insight that I constantly study for myself,
Okay.
right? And that's why I challenge everybody, hey, what you have experienced and your lived experience and your authority is your experience, your authority. And yes, continue sharing with me poetically, continue sharing with me other people. But period, think about when I was in the rain and my
Mm,
thoughts got swept away because I wasn't mastering the simple life.
okay.
I wasn't being a part of myself. I wasn't attached to myself. My thoughts were everywhere outside of myself.
Mm,
Remember, I just said I'm the only one that matters here.
yeah.
So when my thoughts are outside of everybody, outside of myself, and they have grown and accumulated and stayed in that space, and I haven't checked in, but it takes the rain to check in.
Yeah.
Um, taking a pause really quick. I just remember seeing this post that people where someone was talking about how healing is actually just remembrance, right?
Hmm.
Healing, what feels like grounding, what feels like presencing, what feels like being in alignment
Mm,
is remembrance.
hmm.
I'm going to take it a step further.
Yeah, because I have questions about that.
Yeah, yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait to hear them. You have all the answers inside of you.
Okay.
We were given and gifted all the answers. We are expressions of creator, expressions of divine living here in all
Mm,
these different shapes and forms. But us being here, remembrance wasn't a thing. The biggest lesson was to understand who we were, understand who we are.
mm,
It's not about growing to become and to be. It's growing to remember and come back. So let's bring this all around, and I'll say this, and I'll love to hear your response.
okay.
Growing to remember, growing to understand who self is, going back to self, going back to authority, going back to our worth. Anything that takes away. When I say anything that takes away, when something is being used intentionally as a weapon for you to question who you are, yourself, your being, after you have already stood in what it is that you're believing, as this Muslim community was standing in their own religious beliefs, but then we have the scrutiny of someone else coming to tell you that your stance, that your conviction, that what you know to be true for yourself doesn't make sense. That
Hmm.
is poison, that is ignorant, and that is evil.
Hmm. Hmm. Let me ask you something.
Mm-hmm.
Because now I have a different perspective of maybe the groups expressing themselves.
Yeah.
Okay. do we call something evil just because we don't understand it? One, and then what do we do when someone else's practice, right, feels dark to us, but it's peaceful for them? Like it could be peaceful. Go ahead.
Define dark. You keep using dark,
What?
right? And a
No,
lot of times, again, good and evil is different
but
from.
that's my point though.
You know what I'm
That's
saying?
my no. That's my point.
Yeah.
That is my point. I can keep using it because it's never going to go anywhere.
Yes. And that's why I want.
But that's my question though. That's
Yeah.
my question though.
Hmm.
What do you do when something feels dark to you, but it brings peace to someone else? I have to keep using it because it's not going me trying to switch the word up, it's still going to be what it is. People are going to still feel you you know, the Christians, it could be a darkness that you feel when you hear the Christians yelling at the Muslims. It may not be that word, but that's what's technically happening because you don't feel that that's right. But what if that's peaceful for them to what if that's because you have certain people, right? Like prime example, we're gonna switch this, but it's still gonna connect.
Yeah.
You have like in certain religions, they don't believe in certain aspects of life, right? They don't believe in certain things. This is Wellness Wednesday, so this covers wellness. But let's say you go to an abortion clinic, right? And you're going up there and you see all these different Christians or whatever religion they believe into, and they don't believe in aborting a baby, and they're just going crazy outside, right? Don't do this, don't. But that is part of their mission. That is part of their peace. They could think what you're doing is dark and not right. Dark is what a word we're using to say many different words. They think that it's, right, it's many different things happening. So what happens when someone, right, you know what I'm saying? So someone, diminishing, you may it comes off as I'm diminishing this, but it's part of my mission, my practice, my peace. This will not stop. You telling me, hey, to mind my business is cool, but it's part of my mission, who I'm sent, part of my religion, part of my practice, spirit, prep or path is to awaken others. So part of their awakening is to go out here and to get people to wake up and realize what they're doing is not. You on those crystals, you got those rocks, you lighting that sage, you lighting that whatever you lighten up. It's part of me to wake you up and understand, sister, what you're doing is not part
Mhm.
of the Lord's mission. What do you say? I'm serious. What do you say? Because
Well, that's
because
real.
if I had this conversation with you in the mindset of like, okay, I get that, but if you really sit down into the person that's really living the practice, and they're like, hey, I'm here on behalf of
Mhm.
XYZ,
Mhm.
and I'm trying to wake you up.
So let's talk. Let's take a pause because yes, what is your intention?
I'm trying
So,
to wake you up.
so I get it. Trying
Okay.
to help someone, right? Going back to the we are one. Going back to the we are one. I'm trying to wake you up because you're different from me. Because what you are doing, even though I see it gives you peace, this is my peace over here. I had a beautiful conversation with my sister.
Okay.
I am the person in the family that's going to have the conversations with my family members if they've done trash, period. That gives me peace.
Yeah.
That is me operating in my truth. Okay. My sister, hey, she's going to have conversations that she needs to have in her own way. And it's her truth and her peace is going to look very differently and looks very differently than mine. Right. And so I say that to say the communion of us coming together, the communion of the oneness.
Hmm.
If my intention is to wake you up, is the only way to wake you up through stark judgment and criticism and scrutiny. These are the questions that we have to ask ourselves in our authority of carrying out the missions that we decide to do here on this earth. So Christian, so Christian,
Hmm.
about Christ, right?
Hmm.
So if I'm to treat others how I want to be treated, if I'm to love my neighbor, as I love myself. It's not to say I'm to love my Christian neighbor as how I love myself. I'm not to love a specific type of person. How I'm to love my neighbor as I love myself, the oneness. Do you feel like, Christian, you yelling slurs and cursing and sharing things and scrutinizing is going to be the way to evangelize? Because that's the Christian way. The Christian way is to evangelize, and I would say that would give the peace in that faith to evangelize. But what is that the way? I have been around many a Christians that that are community service
Mhm.
oriented, that have hearts, that have direct connections to God, that honor their ancestors, that do these things that traditionally other people that honor African centers will look down upon and be like, oh, just because you're labeled as Christian, that's just that you're honoring this. No one has any jurisdiction as to what anyone else honors. That's the evil. Going back to the self, going back to the
Yeah.
authority. You can't judge me for what it is that I'm doing. You can judge yourself in these spaces too as to what you are going to do with your own authority. But like my colleague said, my sister in yoga said, she said, allowing people to express themselves, that's free.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Like what? What we doing?
It's
Doing?
well, I think this is what I'm saying though. I think I think this conversation is great, but I think it's too I think it's not really I don't think it's really addressing the issue or
Mm,
it's addressing the real thing.
talk
I
to me.
want to read this, right? I'm gonna read this. Proverbs. He who withholds his rod hates his son, but he who loves him disciplines him diligently. Another Proverbs. Do not withhold discipline from a child. Though you strike him with the rod, he will not die.
Okay.
What I'm saying is, it's there. That's just one, right? In many different forms of different practices, it is part of the practice on how you deliver a message or how you make it in your. You're talking about be as one, let people go, be, but I'm not killing you. But I have to, however that discipline or however my way of getting you to recognize how you have gone lost in this world, however
Mm.
that has to be, I now have to put that force out there to wake you up.
You have
So in
gone
these
off.
practices, it is a practice within the word, or within the scripture right there on, you know, because for me growing up, it was, and I'm tying this in because, like, okay, why is corporal punishment allowed, right? Then that ties into this conversation right here. Why
Mhm.
is it then allowed to harass someone else? Because it's part of the same thing. You see what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
So you're talking about like the double sidedness of things.
No, I don't think it's a double side. I think it's the same side. I think it's that one side is saying, "Hey, we're all one people," and the other side is saying, "Yeah, we're one people, but I'm gonna beat you to wake up and realize you're not one
That's
of what I'm saying."
Yeah. And so, how do you come together? How do you become one? How do you become one? You still don't become one by yelling and scrutinizing and coming down. Let me tell you, take a pause because you said you have gone lost, is what you mentioned. You have gone lost,
Mhm.
and so you want the other people want to reel you back in.
Yeah.
That's also with the inherent understanding that humans humans are naturally bad.
No.
Listen, but
Born
wait,
sinners?
wait, 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 wait.
Born sinners?
Sinners, sinners, which we can no spoilers, but I'm just saying, like people are inherently bad, right? Now, there are two parts to this thing, right? Because there's a part of, okay, I have to show you, I have to be the savior for you, right? And then there's a part of we're all doing what we need to do in this world to make this thing work. And we're operating in our own selves, right? because everybody has an opportunity to be a part of evil. Everybody has the opportunity to be part of righteousness. I loved your point in the beginning where you're like, what is? Who's the one who determines what that is? Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's you.
So you don't think the Christians should be yelling at the Muslims?
No.
You don't think the Christians should judge the earthy girl that wants to burn sage?
This is what I feel. I can also, okay, perfect example. Like I can see how people that are in their own regards, that have these stark belief systems, that are subscribing to the religious practices. I can see, say for instance, my dad who is a pastor. He has these convictions with his Christianity, right? So if I come to him and I'm like, hey, like I think there's more ways to God, and it's kind of like, and I'm telling him some other ways, I would expect him to be like, oh no, it's only Jesus. It's
Mhm,
only Jesus.
mhm.
Because you're subscribing to your belief system, to your religious system. And I can understand how people can get heightened. Like all it is for me is like I can understand how people can get elevated. I can understand how people can, like, when you are subscribing to your religious practice that makes sense to you. I can understand how you can get fired up for yourself. I believe me, I get that.
But
On the
should
other
they
side,
judge that?
but what I'm on the other side saying is, what I'm on the other side saying is, if we're all here on this earth, how is it that you're going to be able to understand and talk to other people and understand other people's peace while also sitting with your own and being strong in your own and understanding your thing? The biggest, the real thing is that separatism is the evil. That comparison is evil. The anything that, going back to the earlier conversation, anything that separates us and tears us apart is the evil. Anything that labels and defines and defies us and pulls us apart, to me, that is the poison.
So you think schools should have been integrated?
You said I think that school shouldn't have been integrated.
Should have been integrated.
From what perspective? On what lens?
We're going from your lens.
Going from the lens of bringing everybody together.
Yes.
Shoot, integration of school. Woo! Listen, and there's a lot of studies.
How much of the one, because is that a real thing? Is it a real thing? And maybe this goes into a whole nother conversation. Is it a real thing that if we really are one, or is that just some concept we want to believe to kind of keep everything comfortable
Listen.
and peace and happiness? Is happiness
Oh
is are
no,
we just telling ourselves,
that is what people are tearing us apart and away from. People don't want to be one. People want to be
so
individual.
why is that a thing? Why can't it be this side? Why can't it be a chaos? Why you got volcanoes, you got storms? It's that, excuse me, it's natural to have chaos.
Mhm.
Why is not chaos accepted?
So I love that. I love that because wait, chaos absolutely should be accepted. In community, ruptures occur. When, like, in order for me and my sister to get to the point of understanding that my truth is like looks like this and her truth looks like this,
Mhm.
it took friction.
Okay.
So that's not my point. Friction community, like friction in community is a real thing. Ruptures are a real thing. What my thing is the unification. Within that unification is the balance of what happens when you bring things together. When you bring there's so many people with so many opinions that come together. So who's gonna take the back seat? What is the intention? What is the intention? And if I'm really holding true to my intention and what I subscribe to in my religion and my spiritual belief that resonates with me, where it says, "Thou shalt not judge thy neighbor." If I'm subscribing to that, then why am I carrying that out? That's one part. But also, if we are to be in community, yeah, the chaos will ensue. Chaos ensues in organizations that are about healing. But you're in community. You're able to see and learn and evolve and grow. So think about integration.
Mhm.
You're in community. They were in community, seeing, evolving, growing. That was one thing. Now, I'm not saying integration was good or bad, left or right, because there are a racial construct that was here that divided us, and real racial things that people of color have to deal with and reassess and realign on, based on this separatism that happened, based on this evil division. So yes, the oneness is the depth. But how we get to the oneness is the depth. It's not about oneness, isn't about rainbows and butterflies. No, no. Oneness is about raw
But
and
do you
rawness.
okay, so then do you understand why the Christians are yelling at the Muslims?
I already said I understood.
No, 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 no,
Well,
no.
I understood. I just know it's evil to
Why
me.
is that evil though? But then it can't be evil if you it can't that's my point. And that's
Huh?
why I was asking about it. It can't be evil if they're allowed to express themselves. That's
Everyone's
their
allowed to
peace.
express themselves.
They're allowed to express themselves. This
Mhm.
is what they feel they're doing it right. This is how I feel I have to wake you up. This is what I'm doing. Then you have this aspect of this is what their guidelines in their book. They again, the Christian that's judge. I asked you, do you think the Christian should judge the earthy girl that wants to burn sage?
Right. I can understand why they do, and I still don't believe that it should
So
happen.
you're separating yourself now, though.
Tell me more.
You're not bringing it to one because these people, everybody has their own guidelines. Is my point. So
So go ahead, go ahead.
if everybody has their own guidelines and they're trying to express this is my guideline, this is my guideline, this is my guideline, you're saying we're all one. It's you're really dismissing everybody's really saying to you that
Yeah.
these are our guidelines.
No, 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 no. So I understand where you're coming from with that, because this is not a I don't see color vibe. That's not this experience at all.
Okay.
What I am saying is that from an outside perspective that has nothing to do with the Muslim or the Christians, and me looking from an audience member, anything that is tearing someone down and coming down on somebody from an objective lens, to me, is evil. It's poisonous. Anybody that is trying to defy or come against someone else's, I understand where you're coming from, because there's so many different lenses and so many different cases that can occur.
And that's
I
why I was reading that's why I was reading the Proverbs. He who withholds his rod hates his son.
well, yeah, he who spares a rod spoils a child. Like I understand love can show up in different ways. So what
Right.
you're saying from your perspective is, hey, I'm this Christian and I'm coming here, and this is my love, and this is my peace, and this is my righteousness. This makes sense.
Right.
I understand that perspective. Andy?
Yeah.
Andy isn't separating anything.
Yeah, for sure.
It, anybody that comes down on someone else's spiritual belief system is evil. Not them as a being. That energy is an energy of separatism. A separatism that goes deeper than just the, oh well, we're you're not rainbows and butterflies right now. We're not all in community. No, it goes deeper than that to me.
Got you. Got you. This will definitely have a part two at some point because I want to get it. I want to be able to maybe we have some people for that, from different communities that can actually speak and have more make this be like a panel thing to open up because
Yeah.
would that be interesting to have more or maybe I pull some different things we have some different perspectives that I pull from and read too.
Can I ask you?
Sure.
because
Yeah.
I love, like, yeah, yeah. I the biggest part about community is being in community. What I'm identifying is that rupture that people were around each other to experience. That is being in community. And that one of the things that also comes to mind in this space is also, like you mentioned before, the people that are outside the abortion clinics pushing shame and pushing all these different things and stuff like that. Um, because they feel like they're righteous in their own decisions. No one has walked anyone else's shoes, right? And I'm very, very, I challenge all of us to be very, to tread lightly, to stomp with your confidence and your authority, but also see what your decisions provide you, right? We talked about decisions aren't good or bad. Inherently, they each come with a positive or negative consequence. So let's see what it looks like when the scales are balanced in different ways, right? So I'll take a pause there because yeah, everybody, nah, that was some possession there. I don't care. There's some possession there. There's some things. When I say possession, I think about people. I think about value systems that are occupying people. It's not about demonic stuff. It's not about. It's not about which people can correlate.
Okay. Okay.
But there's
Well,
just different things that are to be observed and understood.
understood. Understood. Well, I appreciate you. Wellness Wednesday yet again with Miss Andrea Cole of Honor Your Presence PLLC. This founder, the CEO, right here on Riz Radio. Riz Talk in the morning. You know, we're gonna have this our Wellness Wednesday conversation. Always get into the heart and soul of who we are, how we are, and what we're doing and doing and how we're doing it to become our next version of ourselves. You, how you doing it? When you're doing it? And why you're doing it. So
Mhm.
thank you for joining us this morning. And hey, we're gonna be back to this thing next week and get to it. We look forward to seeing what next week brings us. I like how these topics been going.
You get what I'm saying? The topic's getting flowing. Can I talk to the
Yeah,
people and let them know what's going on?
yeah, wrap it up. Got 1 minute.
Oh snap! Just spent 10 seconds doing that. Y'all, numerology workshop, free and open to the community. It is virtual to include everybody to increase accessibility. Of course, this is Honor Your Presence's offering to the community. So this Sunday, May 18th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, I will be providing another numerology workshop where we're calculating your personal numbers. We're talking about your authority in this space. Let's see from a scientific and ancient perspective who you are with your destiny number. It's a 3-part series, so y'all can check out the other 2 videos, the soul urge number and the outer personality number on Honor Your Presence PLLC's YouTube channel. But this Sunday, you can go to honoryourpresence.com to be able to register for the Destiny Number Workshop. It's the final one of the series, but still know every month Honor Your Presence is coming with you and sharing another community offering about wellness for sure. So, yeah, check us out, honoryourpresence.com, as well as Honor Your Presence on both Facebook and Instagram. Yes, that's what I have poetically. Thank you so much for letting
Let's
me
get
share.
it. Absolutely. Let's get it. Appreciate you. Remember, tap in with her. Riz Talk in the morning. Follow me poetically, POETICLE. Until next time, we out of here. Peace.
Peace.